My name is Joe. 20 years ago, my wife and I moved to Lake County with our 4 young children and settled down. In that time, we've worked, worshiped, played, and raised our family. Today, I've met the people and discovered the businesses and organizations that make up a vibrant, dynamic community. Join us as we share with you what makes South Lake great. I'm Joe, and Joe knows South Lake. Good morning. Welcome, and a happy South Lake morning to you. Welcome to Thursday, our Homefront episode. Today on Homefront, we're going to do something very special and important to our whole market here. I just want to welcome you. Oh, wait a minute. Shh. We have secrets. We must be quiet. Joe tends to be a little loud, and I know I blow Jay's ears out sometimes.
On the daily.
Yeah. We're actually doing a special segment last night you'll probably see next week. And he gave me a microphone and I'm trying to shout over the road. And he was like, Joe, stop. You don't need to shout. I can hear you. Yeah. So my children and my wife tell me that too. They say there might be something wrong with my ears because I'm always shouting. So anyways. Today, happy Thursday and welcome to Joe Knows South Lake. I am Joe Carlisle and I'm glad you're here. Today we have a good show for you. We're going to talk about Mulligan Day. We're going to talk about this day in history. Something awful happened, but something great came out of it. Today we're going to continue our Cup of Joe theme of success, and we're going to talk about what's next in that step once you apply the hard work and the belief. And finally, we are going to hear from Jaimie Ross. She is the president and CEO of the Florida Housing Coalition. She's going to talk to us about affordable housing and some of the struggles we're having in the market today. Look, if you know anybody who's trying to buy a house or who is renting a house, you know prices are going up and things are expensive. And she's going to help us get an idea of maybe some of the solutions and something the government could or should do. So this is going to be a very cool interview. I'm really looking forward to all of it. We are going to hear from our family of sponsors. We'll get started as soon as we get back. Don't go away. I'll see you in a minute.
Hello, my name is Michael Singh with Singh Insurance and Financial Services. Our goal is to build trust based on a clear understanding of how your insurance policy protects you, your family, and even your business. When was the last time you took a good hard look at your insurance coverage? Would you be open to the possibility of reviewing your policy with me? One review of your policy can save you valuable time and money. Call me today to set up a review of what may be available to you.
Purchasing a home? Hi, I'm Mary Rhodes with the Mortgage Firm, your local direct lender for FHA, VA, conventional, and USDA mortgages. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or looking to purchase a vacation home, we can help. Visit our website today for more information.
You know, I can't say enough how much I love our sponsors. Mary Rhodes, dear friend of mine, been a champion of mine for a long time. If you need a mortgage, you should be calling her. And as soon as you get off the phone with Mary, you should make a call to Michael Singh, a man who has gained my respect, who I've seen the way he pours into his family, the way he pours into his business. You won't find a guy who will work harder for you on your insurance and investment needs. So reach out to him as soon as you talk to Mary. All right. Today is National Mulligan Day, and for those of you who don't play golf, the taking a mulligan is generally a golf term, and it means you get to do a shot over, you get to do a hole over. Now, I did some research in this. The story comes from legend has it that 3 separate golfers, depending on who you believe, created this. 2 of them were named Mulligan. One of them was not named Mulligan at all, but he was one of the original people who made golf popular in the U.S. back in the 20s. The point is, though, today is Mulligan Day, and it's not necessarily about golf. Today is the day that you should revel in the opportunity to not beat yourself up about your mistakes. Just take a mulligan, okay? Just do over. You know, because so often we make a mistake and then we just hash it over and hash it over and hash it. You know, 90% of our mistakes we can fix. We can just do it all over again. Doesn't necessarily, look, don't be afraid to wad up the piece of paper and throw it away and start all over. Okay, take a mulligan today. And while you're taking a mulligan, give a mulligan to a friend, a coworker, somebody on social media. Don't take everything so seriously. It's not worth the emotional energy to get all caught up. And they might be struggling too. They might be beating themselves up about the mistake. Hey, encourage somebody today. If you really, they say if you want to celebrate Mulligan Day, use hashtag Mulligan on social media. But I'm going to say if you really want to celebrate National Mulligan Day, you should probably find somebody in your circle and say, hey, you can take a mulligan on that. It's all right. Okay. This day in history, something awful happened, actually. It was the earthquake in San Francisco in 1989. 1989. Baseball was in the air. San Francisco, thriving city. A 7.1 earthquake hit San Francisco. And if you're old enough like me to remember the pictures and the devastation, our hearts and prayers went out to San Francisco. And frankly, as bad as the damage was, there was a game going on, Houston Astros game. I think it was the Astros and whoever San Francisco plays. I don't know. But because the stadium had been built according to new earthquake standards, the stadium fared fairly well and people were not hurt. The rest of San Francisco, not so much. A lot of those buildings had not been shored up. A lot of those buildings were dropped because they had been built in a time that there were no standards for preparing for hurricanes. Or not hurricanes, for earthquakes. Since then, the good thing that came out of it is we actually got to see, I really hate when I see I like apocalypse type stories, right? Disaster. My wife is a disaster movie junkie. The thing that always irritates me about them is, Hollywood writers seem to think that disaster stories, when a disaster happens, the story always seems to be about how people start feeding on each other and looting and it's not what really happens. And we saw this in the San Francisco earthquake, where people came together to help dig out, to help each other, to help provide whatever they could. It was really a community that came together. So the cool thing that came out of this is not only understanding how we in America work in time of disaster, but they had all sorts of new hurricane regulations, or not hurricane, I keep saying hurricane. Maybe it's because I'm in Florida. All sorts of new earthquake standards for building standards came out of that. So all of California is actually safer in case of an earthquake. Now, this is the reason I don't live in California, because I know when a hurricane's coming, if it's going to be bad, I can leave. All right?
I have an earthquake story.
Oh, give us the earthquake story.
So I worked in downtown Los Angeles at a movie studio, and every single week they would send out these emails, like if there was going to be, because it was a practical location. It's called LA Center Studios. You should definitely look it up. But it used to be an old power building, 13 stories, downtown Los Angeles, and they would send out, hey, there's going to be a gunfight on the street, they're doing a mob movie, or there's going to be an explosion, they're doing some sort of a Bruce Willis action movie or something like that. So they'd always send out emails, so you knew if you heard a bunch about loud bangs or crashes or something, oh, they're filming something. Well, this earthquake just showed up one day, and the pictures on the wall started rattling and everything started shaking, and we're like, did you get an email? What are they filming? Like, no one actually realized until it was actually over that it was actually an earthquake. It was my first one. I'd never experienced anything like that. Horrible feeling. Just the fact of not knowing why things were just starting to move and everything was starting to shake and it was wild. So the good news is that we do live in Florida and we have plenty of advance notice. They send us the email out way ahead of time when there's a possible disaster. So earthquakes, not so much. You have no notice and you have no idea what's going on until after it's over and you're like, oh, that's what that was. Yeah, it's horrifying.
I am firmly, people have asked me, I have family who live in California, and they're like, why don't you move out here, Uncle Joey? And I'm like, because your ground shakes without warning. Yeah. And one day, all that ground goes slide into the ocean. I am not going to be there. And I will tell you, my wife and I went and visited, 3-4 years ago for a wedding. And literally, as our plane was leaving the tarmac, we saw the tower start to shake. They were literally having an earthquake it only lasted like a minute. It wasn't real bad, but it was kind of spooky to be in the air. Our plane had settled in, and then I saw buildings shaking. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. So that was what happened in history today. Finally, Cup of Joe is going to be about success. We talked already about you have to have belief. You got to be willing to do the work. But once you get the vision and the belief, and once you're willing to do the work, actually once you set into the work, something's going to happen. There's an old adage about the greatest generals in the world, and the truth is no battle plan lasts beyond contact with the enemy. And what that refers to is that a general can have a perfect battle plan, but once he gets into contact with his opponent, the plan has to be adjusted. It has to be adjusted for the other side. And becoming a success is kind of like that. Okay, and so the next part of being a success is the ability to assess not only your progress, but your mistakes and the situations that you're faced with, to adapt to those situations, and to implement procedures that was identified in your assessment and your adaptation phase. No great general is great because he writes a good battle plan. Great generals are remembered for the battles that they win, and every great general throughout history has written and will tell you that the success in any given battle was their ability to take advantage of minor successes or the enemy's mistakes, and many times taking advantage of the enemy's mistake and capitalizing on that, assessing, adapting, and implementing was what carried the battle. Now, we have other places in our life that we can apply this. I can look at Edison's light bulb. All right, we all know this story, 10,000 things that he went through to find a filament to allow for a bulb that would last. He was asked once, did it discourage him to have have to do it 10,000 times? And he said, well, I just found 9,999 ways that it wouldn't work, as opposed to he found the one way that would. It's the ability to adapt. He looked, he assessed, he adapted. How does this last in our life? Jay and I yesterday ran into a struggle in our ability to promote and implement and become a success with the show and the station. What do? Well, it was a little upsetting, but we had to adapt. We had to assess the situation. Some things you don't have control over. So if you really want to be a success, you have to, once you put the work to in action, you have to be willing to assess, adapt, and implement. And this is where a circle of friends, an accountability group, a mentor or a group of mentors can really come in handy, because they will help you see your blind spots. Anyways, that's it for the segment. When we come back, we are going to hear from our family of sponsors again. When we come back, we are going to have Jaimie Ross, the president and CEO of the Florida Housing Coalition, an amazing woman. I've heard her speak a couple of times now. She really has some insight for the affordable housing issue in the state of Florida, and particularly in Central Florida for us. I want you to come on back. Now, we're going to have her by FaceTime, so she's not actually going to be in the studio. I'm looking forward to this because technology lets me do the coolest things. So when we come, stick around. You need to know that if you live in a house, you need to hear this. So stick around. I'll see you in a minute, and we'll get started.
Hello, I'm Mary Rhodes with the Mortgage Firm, your local mortgage lender. I've helped thousands of families achieve the dream of homeownership in Lake County, and I would love to help you. Our team has over 30 years of experience helping first-time homebuyers, veterans, move-up buyers, seasoned investors, and more. Please read our reviews and visit us at mortgagefirmpros.com.
The best things in life aren't items we can grab and hold. They are the moments that grab and hold us. Moments that captivate us, inspire us, and enrich us. Moments that bring joy, strength, and peace. At Sing Insurance and Financial Services, we help you to treasure these times by being there when life's most difficult moments arise. Through our services, you will find independence, flexibility, health, and security that will prosper and protect your life. Whether you are driving that new car, buying that new home, opening that new business, or building a new family, we provide you the peace of mind and freedom to enjoy life's best things. Your next moment is waiting. Are you ready?
Welcome to Erica's Tea Room. Located in the heart of downtown Claremont, this specialty tea shop offers a traditional high tea experience that can be enjoyed with family and friends. While here, you can choose from over 100 teas from all over the world, and a multitude of teapots are available for purchase. Join us for lunch or choose from one of our special evening events. Call to make a reservation. Erica's Tea Room, making memories with every cup.
So good once again to hear from our family of sponsors. Look, you can be one of those sponsors. I still have a spotlight sponsor available. Need you to give me a call. We'll talk about that at the end of the show real quick though. I am so excited. Jaimie Ross is with us today in the studio by FaceTime. How are you doing today, Jaimie?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me, Joe.
Thanks for coming on. Look, Jaimie is going to talk about a subject that's so important to us here in Florida. I am not kidding. If you live in a house, you need to pay attention to this. So please, don't go away and do something else and get a cup of coffee. Lock in. Let me introduce her. Jaimie is the president and CEO of the Florida Housing Coalition. She is a member of the board and on the executive committee of the Grounded Solutions Network. And she is the previous director, affordable housing director for 1,000 Friends of Florida. Now, Jaimie is going to explain to us as she talks to us about what some of this stuff is. But we're going to start with, what is the Florida Housing Coalition?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. The Florida Housing Coalition is a statewide nonprofit. We've been around for over 35 years. Our mission is training and technical assistance. So, for instance, doing housing forums where I met you in Lake County is the kind of thing that we do, and anything that has to do with land use, to housing, from ending homelessness to first-time home ownership. That's what we do. And then also, people think about us as an advocacy organization. But really, that's only because we facilitate the Sadowski Coalition. I actually initiated the Sadowski Coalition in the early 90s, which led to the landmark legislation called the Sadowski Act. About the Florida Housing Coalition, they think about advocacy, but we really, our business is training and technical assistance.
Okay, so you mentioned the coalition does a lot of work, but it seems today one of the primary things you do is advocacy for the Sadowski Fund. And for those of you who don't know, the Sadowski Act created the Sadowski Fund. I'm actually going to let Jaimie, since she's a little humble. Jaimie was actually key in creating the Sadowski Fund, and it's very, very important to our lives here in Florida. You want to tell us what the fund is, Jaimie, and what its purpose is?
Absolutely, and I have to say, as far as being key, I brought everybody together to the table. That's what I did. And then when I say everybody, we're talking about the realtors, the home builders, low-income advocates, like legal services, and everybody hammered out the bill, negotiated. Nobody got everything they wanted, but everybody got something they needed. And they negotiated that bill, and it was passed through the legislature. It would increase the documentary stamp tax that's paid whenever you record deeds, whether it's commercial property or it's residential property. It went from 60 cents per hundred to 70 cents per hundred. And that money goes by statute, because that's what the act did. It created a change in the statute so that that money that would go into two different buckets. One is the State Housing Trust Fund, and one is the Local Housing Trust Fund. So the Sadowski Act created a dedicated revenue source for affordable housing in Florida that was supported by this broad-based coalition at the time in the early 90s. That was just 11 statewide groups. Now the Sadowski Coalition is over 30 statewide groups, and I think you have a visual that shows, we put it sort of like Monopoly cards to organize the Sadowski Coalition so that your viewers can see, and this is what we typically use in all of our materials to show, hey, this is the Sadowski Coalition. There's basically no statewide organization not on here, from faith-based organizations like the Florida Conference of Catholic Bishops, Florida Impact and Habitat, industry groups, like the Florida Chamber of Commerce, and of course all of our original members like the Realtors and the Builders, and then newer members like AARP. You're talking about an organization that has over 3 million members in the state of Florida. So there's a tremendous constituency that basically says the same thing. We want the Florida legislature to use all the money that's in the Sadowski Trust Fund, state and local, for housing. And Joe, if I can explain, why do we even do that? It's because in the beginning, when the act passed in 1992 and to 2002, that's what happened. All the money that went by operation of law into those trust funds was appropriated out. But that hasn't been happening over the last 15 years. Your viewers may know about the sweeps. It's in the news quite a bit. Virtually every paper, every major newspaper in the state every year does editorials urging the legislature to not sweep or divert any of the housing trust fund monies, because that has been going on for the last actually 15 years. And that's the reason why folks think of us as an advocacy organization, because it's so important that we do work that issue, even though training and technical assistance is what we actually do.
Okay, so on Fridays, we call this the home front. And I just want to explain, one of the reasons this is so important is we are getting rents that are getting out of reach of almost 60% of most Floridians. And there are several reasons for that, but part of it is that these monies should have been going into the hands of people to buy home, to assist them to buy homes, and to build affordable housing for people who are classified working poor, that they are making just enough money to get by. And because they haven't built any of this for 15 years, or at least not enough of it, now we're in this situation. And I have to say, I was telling Jaimie earlier in the week, I have customers that use something called the SHIP program. And the SHIP program is one of the ways this Sadowski money is administered to people, and it helps people, low-income people, with closing costs and down payment, and sometimes even repairs, so that they can purchase a home and not become a slave to ever-increasing rents. This is important to our rental market and to our housing market. Jaimie, explain to us why SHIP is. Can you tell us what it is?
Yeah, and I think you have a slide that shows the split between the state and the local housing trust fund. And when you're talking about SHIP, that is the local housing trust fund. And you are so right in what you just said, because the truth is, with mortgage rates being what they are right now, very good, and they have been for quite a while, at the same time that the SHIP program has really been starved from its appropriation that it should have been getting, it's quite unfortunate, because local governments have they have fewer dollars to use for down payment and closing cost assistance, because the SHIP program is largely a home ownership program. 65% of the money in the local program, which is the bulk of the money, the 70% of the Sadowski funds go to the SHIP program, and then 65% of that money needs to be used for home ownership related activities. Now, that can be repairing somebody's home, fixing their roof and so on, which is really good, because we're keeping people in their homes. especially the elderly, who might not have the funds to fix up their home. But one of the bread and butter programs of the SHIP program from its inception was getting people into first-time home ownership, right? Giving them that down payment and closing cost assistance. And when I say giving, it could be a loan that gets repaid. But giving them the ability to get into their home, because ultimately they're paying less in their mortgage, right? Their fixed rate 30-year mortgage, than they would be paying for rent. So what does that do? As you said, that we have a really tight rental market, right? That's why rents are going up all the time, because they can, right? Because it's basically a landlord's market, right?
Right.
So if we can move people out of rental units into home ownership, we free up that rental unit, and we get that family on a wealth building, journey. So yeah.
I was going to say, classic example, the way if you're a first-time home buyer, the way, if you qualify, the SHIP program works, it's basically a no-interest loan, no-interest second mortgage on your home to assist you with getting into the home. If you can afford a $300,000 home and you're in a gated community, why do you care? Some people might say, well, why do I care about that? Well, I'll tell you why. For the same reason we were talking to Chief Broadway yesterday, and we talked about neighborhoods that have transferred from being rough areas, crime-ridden, and those generally are places that you don't have a lot of owners. You don't have a lot of people able to maintain their properties. But if you turn a percentage of those homes into homes owned by people, they take better care of the home. They call the police more often when there's trouble. Crime does not live in areas where home ownership is a higher percentage than rentals. And that's why you should care, because even if you're not going to take advantage of the program, it helps your property values if your whole community is less crime-ridden and safer for all families. It's just basic math. If somebody is going to come into some place and own a house and take care of it, even in the bad areas of town, prices are going to come up, and that means your prices are protected and rising in the nice areas of town.
Yeah, and Joe, if I could add to that, I think one of the reasons that it is such a broad coalition, that is the Sadowski Coalition, is because even if you are wealthy, like you say, you don't need to use these programs, right? The workforce does, right? So virtually every place in Florida, folks who are just everyday part of our workforce, including our first responders in higher cost areas, they need this money to be able to find housing. And what we're finding in some communities, perhaps not in Lake County, but in a number of communities around the state, is folks that they don't have their workforce. They can't recruit teachers. They can't, nurses, hospitals. There is a major problem for folks who have money if the workforce isn't able to live in the community. Do you think we could show your viewers how serious this kind of sweep of the trust funds is and what effect it has on Lake County? I think we have a visual specifically about Lake County. We've got one.
We have it up on the screen now.
Okay, good. So I'd like to walk you through this visual. At the top, you're seeing for the whole state. You're seeing the local state and local housing trust funds. And if you look at the state part is basically the sale program. We don't know how much of that will ever come to a particular community because developers apply for those apartment building funds on a competitive basis. So we only know how much money each county would get in the SHIP program and the local program, again, which is the majority of the money. And the reason we know that is because it's population based. So it's a formula that's population based. So we can tell you, how much money you would be getting in your community. And so what you see is that with the full funding for this coming fiscal year program, it's over $245 million. And this also shows you the positive economic impact if you go down that line of over $3.2 million to the state of Florida. And that builds over 10,000 units and helps over almost 27,000 households. And it creates jobs as well, 22,800 jobs. Now I want you to look down and you can see your District 32, Lake County. If you go there, you see how the sweep impacted your district in last year. And basically, the money that's in the trust fund or projected for this year is virtually the same as last year. So you can assume the same thing. So Lake County this current year, from the appropriation of the 2019 legislative session, should have received over $4.1 million in your SHIP program, just for you, just for Lake County. Over $4.1 million. But what did Lake County actually receive? $570,000. That is a huge difference, right? Huge. And so that has an effect on your residents. That is directly translated into fewer homes that can be rehabbed, fewer folks who can get into home ownership.
You know, and I want to make this again impactful. So this sounds like, okay, I'm a landlord. Why would I want to support something like this? Why do I care about this? Because that'll keep my prices low or take people out. It won't. Because what we need to do is take people who are long-term residents and put them into housing, because Claremont alone is projected to double its population in the next 5 to 8 years. And that means there's always plenty of new people coming in. And people in general that are new and coming in are coming in with income. They're coming in and you'll be able to keep them in your units longer. This means that the people who apply for the SHIP program that qualify, and I'm just going to use an example. Let's say 100 people qualified, but we only had $570,000 available. Well, that might have only housed or met the needs of 70 of those people, and the money's put out on a first come first served basis. So 70 of those people have been helped. They're good. We got them into homes. We rehabbed their houses. But that means now we're starting 2020 with a backed up list of 30 people who have been waiting for funds to come in. So anybody who applies in 2020 are now on the back end of a waiting list that's 30 people long already. Now, again, that was just an example numbers. Don't hold me to that. That's just the example. And this is real to us in our housing. If you want your housing to go up, if you want all of this to be important to you, there needs to be a political will in Tallahassee. Now, I would ask my last question for you, Jaimie, and we're running out of time. So my last question is, how can we help? What can we do to... You think it's the housing fund, so the Congress would say, oh yeah, housing, but they don't think that way.
Here's the most important thing you can do. First of all, is everybody can talk to their representative, and I would like to say that the governor, Governor DeSantis, in his first term last year, he put in his budget full funding, full appropriation of the state and local housing trust funds, which is phenomenal. In fact, we're giving him a Housing Champion Award. The Senate also put full funding for the programs. It really was just in the House that the problem is, and what happens is there's negotiations during conference. So if you could talk to your House member in particular, thank your Senate member, and urge your House member to talk with leadership in the House and express how important it is for your community that all the Housing Trust Fund monies are used for housing, especially now when there is no budget crisis. It's not like there's any reason why that money can't be used for housing. In fact, last year, the sweep of the Housing Trust Fund money went into the rainy day fund. I mean, we didn't have a hole in our budget that needed to be filled, right? So that's and I think if you have that visual up, you have the Sadowski information. You have also my contact information. We also, in addition to have the Sadowski Coalition, we have the Sadowski affiliates. That can be an individual, it can be a local organization. Tons of local realtor groups are affiliates. All the habitats are affiliates. So it's free, and we just keep you informed of what's going on and give you whatever messaging material you might need when you're meeting with a legislator. And again, Joe, I really appreciate, I know you're running out of time, but I really appreciate this. It's an ongoing and really important issue to everyone.
Well, thank you, Jaimie. I really appreciate having you out here. I'd like to thank you for coming on. Look, everybody, if, again, the information was posted. If you need to know how to get in touch, you can Google the Florida Housing Coalition. They've got a great website. The other thing I'd like to say is, look, if you're watching this and you'd like to wonder if you qualify for this, you're a first-time home buyer, I might be able to pair you up with this program and maybe a teacher's program or a first responders program. There's no reason for you to be a slave to rentals with programs like this. There is some money available. Let's get you in. Let's get you on the waiting list. See if you qualify. Give me a call. You can reach out to me through all of my stuff. And once again, thank you so much, Jaimie. I really, really appreciate you. I appreciate you filling us in on this information. And you'll be hearing from me on the side. We got other things to talk about. So
thank you so much. And back at you. Really appreciate the opportunity.
And if you know somebody that should be a guest on our show, Joe Knows South Lake, you need to reach out to me. I'm sure Jay is about to put up the information. And just let me know. And Fridays are the high school teacher, high school student spotlight. Please reach out to me. At the end of the month, we're also going to have a special spotlight for elected officials. We're going to run an extra interview for people running for office here locally in South Lake. If I do not have you scheduled for one of these interviews, please, please, please reach out to me. If you know somebody who's running, please, please, please tell them to reach out to me or give me their number. And I would be more than willing to have them on so that they can talk about what they want to do for South Lake County in whatever seat or municipality they're running in. Finally, if you know somebody who should be advertising on Joe Knows South Lake, advertising with our station or sponsoring something here, I have the spotlight available. Same information. Reach out to me. We can get you branded. Branding is important in today's world. Let's get your business top of mind for the South Lake community. And I just want to remind you that there is greatness inside you. Dare to go out and show that greatness today. And some of that greatness can be shown by giving one of your friends or one of your coworkers a mulligan today, back to our National Mulligan Day. And finally, I really enjoyed having you on. I want to say thank you again to Jaimie. Thank you to you for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow, and I love you. Bye-bye. My name is Joe. 20 years ago, my wife and I moved to Lake County with our 4 young children and settled down. In that time, we've worked, worshiped, played, and raised our family. Today, I've met the people and discovered the businesses and organizations that make up a vibrant, dynamic community. Join us as we share with you what makes South Lake great. I'm Joe, and Joe Knows South Lake.